What's happening, everybody? Today's guest is drummer TJ Childers of Richmond, Virginia's Enter Arma. I caught up with TJ the day after their new record Sulfur English was released when they came through St. Vitus Bar. Shout out to St. Vitus Bar as always. But we got to rap about our favorite AC/DC and Led Zeppelin songs and albums, how he started playing the drums at such a young age and playing with his dad in cover bands, which he still does to this day, which is awesome. Also, I've noticed that we had to backtrack a little bit because I was a little hungover, and apparently he was as well. And as I was not operating with a full deck of cards on this particular day, I forgot to press record initially. So ended up having to backtrack, but still had some laughs along the way. Hope you do too. I certainly did. Crash Bang Boom Podcast can be found on iTunes Podcast, Stitcher, my SoundCloud, and the YouTube page. And I'm, of course, on the Facebook and the Instagram. Check them out and give me a like, a follow, a subscription if you can, por favor. Shout out to New Orleans Record Press, i.e. my sponsor. If you're looking to put out vinyl for your project or projects, go on over to neworleansrecordpress.com to check out all the vinyl coloring, packaging, mastering, electroplating, design options. And they have a real-time quote generator so you can keep track of your order. They do as minimal runs as 100 units on up to the thousands, and they do both 12 and 7-inch records in 150 and 180 gram variants. Check them out, and that's neworleansrecordpress.com. And now for TJ Childers. I haven't got the record button engaged on this one. At least for the second take, that is. Enter Arma. New record Sulfur English is out. The Viking rock has commenced. Crash Bang Boom!
Crowds go mad with joy.
TJ Childers, fucking take two. My dumbass didn't have the record button engaged. Oopsie daisy. I really felt like we were really on a roll there, too.
We're still on a roll.
We're still on a roll. Thank you, man.
Roll.
I appreciate that. That's very dude of you. I really appreciate it. You're making me feel slightly better about being a little bit of a dumbass over here. My God. Apparently, drinking champagne at 2 a.m. and smoking weed and spinning records when I need to wake up at 7 a.m. was not the best idea. So now I can see the levels. We're actually recording. TJ, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Oh, my God. Congratulations on the record, man. There it is. Yeah. Hair of the dog in it. You had yourself a few beers last night. I had a few beers last night. You have a great new record that came out yesterday. Congratulations on that. Sulfur English.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
We're having some serious deja vu right now. This is fucking weird, man.
I love that record.
It's great. I think it's good. You should be proud of it. Tell me a little bit about recording the drums. From what I understand, you went to a pretty incredible studio that had really tall ceilings and bedrock, river rock walls, and the drums sound amazing.
We went to the tracking room in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Right there, smack dab in the middle of Music Row.
Uh-huh.
And it's a state-of-the-art for the 1990s recording studio that's acoustically tuned for drums and guitar and music and whatever. And we recorded the drums. I recorded the drums. No one else played drums.
You didn't have a drum twin to come in and overdub parts?
That would be so sick if I did.
That'd be sweet.
That's actually really the future of music.
It is, right?
I feel like a lot of the times people are like, you know, like, what's wrong with the drums? How come they're not more punchy? Like, I can't really hear your bass drums.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think, you know, fuck it. I'll just go to the bar for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And your drum twin.
I'll just program everything in fucking Pro Tools. Who cares? Like, that's what metal sounds like.
That would not fly with your music or on your records. I think the fans would be upset about that if you just turned in like, here's our new record. It's a gridded, perfectly.
Maybe they would never know the difference.
Oh, dude, they would know the difference.
And they'd be like, man, he finally got good at drums.
He finally nailed it.
He's finally not sucking at drums.
He showed up sober for this one. No hangover, no nothing. Killing it.
if I'm not hungover playing a drum track, a take, then it's definitely not me playing.
Right.
Because
yeah.
that's just par for the course in
Absolutely.
my life.
It's part of the stank in your playing, so to speak, man. You got to have a little bit of that.
There's plenty of stank.
Yeah. Also, I want to congratulate you on your band. No shortage of beards and hair. A strong hair band, man. Not hair metal, but a hair band. I would say you have a strong hair band. Very mountain-esque.
You know, I'm not necessarily growing a beard. I'm just not shaving.
It's substantial. I feel like I have a beard, and then I see yours, and I'm like, fuck, man, now that's a beard.
It's mostly just a lack of, wanting to take care of myself.
Do you have a lady in your life? Does she like it? Or do the ladies, plural, like it? Do you live on a commune? Or are you?
I'm a one-woman man,
okay.
As George Jones would say.
I'm a one-woman man.
Yeah, she likes it, I think.
Yeah.
She tells me she likes it. I who knows if she's telling me the truth or not.
Yeah, I would imagine
maybe she's
she
just
does.
putting up with it.
She could just be putting up with it. How long have y'all been together?
About a year.
Oh, okay, that's early, man. This is like spring chicken relationship.
It's a little bit of a story, but that's a whole other podcast.
There's a whole story behind this relationship.
We're not going to talk about relationships right now.
Okay, we shouldn't.
I'm terrible at those.
Okay,
except for this one. I'm crushing it.
You're crushing it in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a series of failures previous to the one that seems to be working right now, I would say. You got to nail it at some point.
Isn't that life? It's just a series of failures until you figure out what you really want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you could fucking say that about bands and drums.
Sure.
And, it took me. I'm 36 years old. I've been playing drums since I was 3.
Since 3?
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I've been in. I couldn't even tell you how many bands I've been in. So
yeah.
It finally, it took me. I joined this band or started this band, whatever, like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So. Up until then, it was just figuring out what I wanted to do, and I feel like that analogy works pretty well.
It does. I mean, that is kind of the way life works. Some of the previous bands that you were in, were they similar at all to sort of what your drumming style is, and/or what Enter Arma does, or have you been playing like kind of slower, doomy stuff with double bass and some blast beats here and there? What was that all about?
Actually, I played in cover bands for years and years, and I still do play in a cover band with my dad.
No way. What does your dad play?
He plays guitar.
So you grew up playing with your dad?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what's happening.
He's the reason why I played drums, because he could never find a good drummer, so he just threw me behind the drum set. And
so you grew up like playing in cover bands with your dad?
I seriously know how to play like 5,000 cover songs.
That's amazing, dude.
I'm not embellishing that number.
Right. I, too, have played in cover bands, and I think I used to shit on it a lot and thought that it was a stupid pursuit and lame, but having done it, it did teach me a lot.
Man, I'll fucking tell you what, I had this conversation with someone else the other day. When Hunter S. Thompson was first starting out, he would type out Hemingway, and he said, I just wanted to know what it felt like to type out those words in paragraphs and sentences.
The words, the cadence, the everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And he said that's how he learned how to write. And so whenever any fucking punk rock asshole was like, you learn cover songs, that stifles your creativity. Right. No, it's actually the fucking opposite.
Right.
You're learning your craft. You're learning, like, if you learn how to play a bunch of Led Zeppelin songs or a bunch of ZZ Top songs or whatever, like those guys are the fucking masters.
Right.
So if you're kind of sort of following in their footsteps, how could that be a bad thing?
Right.
And that just adds to your musical vocabulary.
Yeah, and I think there's a crucial component to it as well, in that it's one thing to know the song, it's another thing to kind of like fuck around with some of the drum parts, and it's another thing as well to then play those parts within the context of the song and hear how all those parts fit together to make the song that you know and love.
Yeah.
These individual aspects that ultimately make the whole that is the song.
Yeah.
It gives you an appreciation for that.
Well, that's why in Enter Arma, especially, I feel like a lot of the times, sometimes I'm doing fancy drum parts or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, because it's still a guitar-driven band, I feel like I'm Phil Rudding it.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the times I'm playing straight and doing a fairly minimalistic kind of thing.
I mean, that's Phil Rudd to a T, right?
He's
Jesus Christ.
He's there to complement what Angus and Malcolm are doing, these fucking fantastic riffs.
We heard earlier one of my all-time favorite songs from them, Rock and Roll Damnation, came on. That I don't care how many times I've heard it. I don't care where I am when I hear it. But every time that I hear that song, I'm just like, fuck, man. God, it's so exciting.
It's
rock and roll, man. Jesus.
Pretty much the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
I think they're the most rock and roll band of all time. And people always kick back on that, and then I say, well, then who is? And they can never seem to name it. So while they're still trying to figure it out, I'm sticking to it that AC/DC in particular, and nothing against the Brian Johnson era stuff. Those first 3 records that he on are killer as well. But man,
we're high-fiving.
We're high-fiving right now if you didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm a Bon Scott guy.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. And dude, when you see footage of them, man, he's hitting all the notes. He's got all the attitude. His pants are so tight, his testicles are basically stacked vertically on one side.
His rig is fucking so like it's overwhelming to look at. I don't even know if it's huge or small or.
Well,
what.
he was also a midget, so you could put a cocktail weenie on a little fella, and it might still look big. So I kind of have a feeling in regards to the portion of his actual body that maybe it was tiny. But he was certainly accentuating it, wasn't he?
My dad saw AC/DC on the Let There Be Rock tour.
Sweet, are you serious?
And they were opening up for UFO. And
oh my god!
And my dad hadn't really heard of AC/DC. They did the whole thing where like Angus gets on Bon Scott's shoulders and
all of it.
Like the whole fucking shebang. And my dad said, we watched like 2 or 3 songs of UFO and then we left because they were not as good as AC/DC.
Absolutely, and that's crazy because UFO is one of my favorite bands from the 70s.
UFO fucking rules, but
they rule. But Jesus, yeah, you can't. No one's like going on
AC/DC in 76, 77 when they're just fucking on fire. Fucking forget about it.
Can you imagine the cocaine and booze that was involved in?
I don't even want to think about that right now.
It kind of almost makes me feel a little bit ill, but I'm amazed that they could pull off those performances like that. I mean, you think they measured that? They were like, we'll just wait a little bit we'll drink a little bit prior to the show, or were they waking up and drinking?
I don't know if they were waking up and drinking, but they weren't shying off of it by any fucking
few prior
means.
to, during, nor after.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite AC/DC song? I think I might. If we're talking Bon Scott era.
That's way too difficult of a question.
It's a tough question, but I think Bon Scott, my favorite, the same way that I feel like Robert Plant, I think the greatest vocal performance that is probably Since I've Been Loving You, I would say for Robert Plant. I feel like maybe I love Walk All Over You.
That's
for Bon Scott. I think every verse just gets like a little, I love it, man. It's a hard question, right?
I love Let There Be Rock.
It is absolutely incredible
because I had that tape, and I love that the song and the album. There's a lot of them that hold a special place in my heart. Yeah. I love Whole Lotta Rosie.
Whole Lotta Rosie rules every time.
I remember learning that song when I was a kid and crying because I couldn't get the timing down in one little part of it. It's just the intro where it gets a little wacky with the timing, but
right.
For a 9-year-old, when you're trying to count to 13, I still can't count to 13, and I don't know how old am I now?
Exactly. You'd have to count there to get that too.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of counting, man. Well, tell me a little bit about the process of recording the drums for this new record. You were saying that it went by pretty quick, and I do agree with you that if the vibe is right and you're feeling good and firing on all cylinders, if you can go in prepared and knock the drum parts out and keep them with maybe some semi-little questionable things that maybe only you would even know, I think retaining that performance and having the attitude of it is more important than gritting the fuck out and editing the fuck out of something and taking the life out of it.
Yeah. Only one song was recorded with to a click.
Yeah.
And, like, I've always dug the feel of Zeppelin records where Bonham will kind of like hit the gas a little bit in the chorus and then kind of draw it back a little bit in the verse. So we always try to go for that kind of vibe with everything. And only one song was done with a click, and that was Howling Lands.
Okay.
And it was the fundamental tracks, like the double bass part and the foundation tom part,
right,
that was like the first track, and then there was like the cymbals were overdubbed.
Wow.
There's a bell in there that was overdubbed, and then all of the fills were overdubbed as well. It's meant to feel like a kind of marching vibe to it. So I think that was the only one that was done to a click.
Well, tell me a little bit about, I guess, the room as well. And did you play the kit that you're playing tonight on the record?
Yeah, same kit.
Okay, so it's the Ludwig.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a fan of Ludwig. I, too, have a Ludwig kit. I got an old Vista-Lite kit. I'm in probably four or more Ludwig snares. I'm a fan of their drums.
Yeah. I mean, John Bonham used
once
them.
again, for me as well, it kind of goes back to a Bonham thing. And Carmine, I mean, like, a lot of guys, Carmine says that John Bonham started playing those because John saw Carmine playing.
That's a totally true story. He's not making that one up.
He's not making that one up.
Yeah.
I am a fan also of that guy's playing, specifically in like some of the Cactus stuff that he played.
Cactus and Vanilla Fudge. Like Vanilla Fudge especially. It seems like when he was younger, he kind of he was trying to prove himself a little bit more or something. Some of the shit he's doing in Vanilla Fudge is so far ahead of its time. Just really fast, single foot, weird little things that he's doing, and which is why Bonham started doing the shit that he did. But he's highly underrated.
And his brother Vinny as well. I love Vinny's playing with fucking Dio, and like
I like Vinny too, but I don't think he's as good as Carmine.
Really?
I'm on the.
You're on the Carmine team?
Yeah.
Interesting. Another guy that from that era who is probably my favorite of all of them is Cozy Powell, who played with Rainbow, and like
he's
a guy that had
too.
Chops, had feel, had double like Killer, played with Jeff Beck, fucking played with Black Sabbath apparently, was like Emerson, Lake, and
Palmer.
Yeah, but he was in it as well. So Emerson, Lake, and Powell. There it is.
Still ELP.
Yeah, still ELP. They kept the acronym, right? Well, tell me a little bit about being psyched on the room that you were playing in and how it might have affected your performance.
Walking into a room like that and having your drum set up in a room that's been designed for recording music, it amplifies your playing, and I can't even really put it into words. Like it's just an adrenaline rush.
It really is.
In a manner of speaking.
Yeah.
When your instrument sounds that good, it makes you play better.
Of course. You're excited about it. It's this cyclical thing, of course, where it's not only about us just sitting down beating some inanimate object. When it sounds better, you get excited. And that kind of cycle of, I think, the excitement of you playing it and it reciprocating back to you, those frequencies that seem to sound especially enhanced, it raises the level of everything. And if you can capture that on a record, then that's what you want, man.
Yeah, and all of the drum sounds on the record are natural. There's no added
samples
reverb
or anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
Wow. And not all pretty much one take, man, right?
Yeah, it was all one take. If I do a second take, I'm just gonna fuck up.
Yeah. So it's a conversation that I've had, and speaking to drummers as well. I err on the side of preparation and just going in and trusting my instincts at that point. You know, fighters talk a lot about that to kind of draw a correlation there. I think if you drill all of the aspects of it, at that point you want to be in what they commonly call, and most people call, kind of just a flow state. You just want to be and just do what you're there to do and not be overly cerebral about it, because that ultimately affects the feel. And there are all these aspects of it. But, yeah, if you can prepare enough and go in and once again, first, maybe second take, anything beyond that for me, it's not getting better. I don't get better as I do more takes.
Right.
And I would rather keep mistakes in it and keep the original attitude and the performance in it if that's the case.
It's that whole vibe, but it's also just laziness. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't want to fucking play it again. I don't want to play it a second time.
Y'all got some long ass songs too. You'd be like, I got to do fucking 15 minutes of this again.
Yeah, I played for fucking 12 minutes. And you want me to do it again? Hey, come on,
man.
Like I want to play this song once a day.
Right.
That's it. I don't want to play it twice at band practice.
Right. Right.
Unless we're working in a new bass player, which we've had to do recently, but
he sounded good from what I heard at the sound check.
He's all right.
He's all right.
Let's not give him too much credit.
Yeah, he's on shaky legs.
Let's as drummers not give the bass player too much credit. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We would be doing a disservice to ourselves.
That's true. Well, the verdict is still out. I'll make a judgment call tonight and maybe give you whatever that is. So we talked a little bit about your dad, obviously inspired you to pick up the drums, and it's amazing that you grew up playing with your dad. I have a 1-year-old son, and my son is absolutely gravitating towards the drums, picks up drumsticks. He literally took his first steps to take the drumsticks back that I took from him. So every time he can get a drumstick in his hand, he loves it. He plays on the practice pad. He knows what to do with them, and he's a year old, so it's trippy to see that shit.
That's awesome.
I have guitars in the house. I kind of want to be like, hey, son, pick up that guitar so we can do the inverse of what you and your dad did. Yeah. But tell me a little bit about the music that was on in your house and what you were enjoying listening to at a young age. Was there a particular record where you were like, this is rock and roll and I have to have this in my life? For me, it was, I'm 42, a little bit older than you, so it was in the same year, Motley Crue, Shout Out the Devil, and Ozzy's Bark at the Moon came out, and I was just like, I was fucked. Because before that, I loved Neil Diamond's The Jazz Singer. We're coming to America. I was like, man, this is the shit. And then I heard that, I was like, oh, damn.
This is cooler.
Yeah, this is totally cooler. Were there any particular records that had a major impact on you?
There's a fuck ton of them, actually. But there's a couple in particular that I remember. The Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
It's going.
And specifically the song For the Benefit of Mr. Kite.
Really?
And
what a strange reference.
I really liked that song.
It's so bizarre.
Maybe because I was an 8-year-old and I was like, oh, sounds like children's music or something.
It had some of that, absolutely.
I don't know. And that and Curtis Lowe by Leonard Skinner.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And I think I like the storytelling aspect of that song.
Well, that goes back, once again, that's what you probably also enjoy about country music.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a lot of other stuff. Like I would listen to Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Yeah.
Just over and over and over. And Led Zeppelin 2, I would listen to that over and over. And
you mentioned Led Zeppelin 3 earlier. I feel as though, I ask myself this, and I think to this day, Led Zeppelin 3 might be my favorite Led Zeppelin record. That's a hard one. I know. I asked you earlier, like the Bon Scott thing. The Led Zeppelin, sorting out your favorite record for that is another tough one. But honestly, something about Led Zeppelin 3 for me is just special. It's magical.
I love Led Zeppelin 3, but it's not my favorite. My favorite is Houses of the Holy.
Oh, Houses of the Holy.
Yeah.
Is Over the Hills and Far Away on that one?
Yes.
That's the fucking jam,
and
bro.
The Rain song is on that.
Woo! That's another one.
And
holy shit.
Like, fuck Stairway to Heaven. The Rain song is the best song that Jimmy Page ever wrote. That song is...
It's one of the other, absolutely incredible Robert Plant performances as well.
It's a fucking panty dropper.
Is incredible on
Singing's incredible. I know how to play a lot of it on guitar, and the tuning is so weird.
It's that dreamy chord, that...
Yeah. But also the crunge is on there.
Oh, the crunge rules.
Talk about a drum song.
Yeah.
That song fucking smokes. That whole record front to back. There's no duds on there.
That's a jammer. So if you're growing up, it sounds like you and I have a lot of the similar classic rock influences. Was there any particular record, because you're playing the drums, you're playing in bands with your dad, was there any particular album that you really started to notice the drumming specifically? Or was that Zeppelin?
Led Zeppelin 2. I would listen to Moby Dick, then run out into the garage and mimic as much of it as I could, and then run back to the house and listen to it again, and then run back out to the garage and play again. That and Definitely Van Halen early on, like Hot for Teacher, all the crazy ass fills in there. I was like,
even though I think that's overdubbed bass drums and weird shit.
Well, I'm not even talking about the intro, which is definitely overdubs, but like all the when they cut back into the verse or whatever, and he's doing all the crazy like quad, like doubles up top and singles with his feet. Like all of those fills, I was like, what the fuck's he doing? I remember trying to mimic all of those way early on. Yeah.
Alex is a very idiosyncratic drummer. I talk about him a lot because it's one of those things where I've heard live recordings of Van Halen, and I'm like, man, it's almost like he's slipping. I don't know if he was drunk that night. I don't know what was going on.
He's probably those guys fucking ripped. He was a bad alcoholic for years and years.
Right. I've heard some shit where I'm like, yeah, I'm surprised that they gave it the go to like release this as, he's not by any stretch on his A game.
Yeah.
But on the recordings, it's cool, and it is really interesting. Once again, it's this chemistry thing between he and his brother, and I mean, when you have Eddie Van Halen in your band and he's ripping the craziest solos ever. Like,
and just riffs.
Riffs. His rhythm playing is one of the things. I think that's the funkiest thing about that whole band.
It's because he's a drummer.
Oh, was he?
He started out as a drummer. Yeah.
I don't think I even knew that.
Yeah. Alex was playing guitar and Eddie was playing drums, and then at some point when they were kids, they switched, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
Thank God they switched.
Yeah. That's why Eddie's such a good guitar player, because he's a fucking drummer.
Yeah. Dude, I think I've told the story before, but one of my buddies saw Van Halen for the first time. This was at New Orleans, and they once again what you were talking about of what ultimately AC/DC did to UFO. This unknown band, Van Halen, was opening up for a bunch of like arena rock bands, and they played in New Orleans. They were the opening act, and my buddy was like, "What's this fucking fool coming out here wearing knee pads for?" And it was Eddie Van Halen, and he was just like sliding across the stage on his knees, ripping fucking solos. And it was the same thing where it was like everyone else just got the volume turned down, so to speak, on him. Where it's like, who's gonna follow this?
Yeah.
Like Van Halen came out and just crushed the place.
Well, there's a story about Van Halen opening up for Ted Nugent, and pretty much Van Halen was just completely blowing Ted Nugent off the fucking stage every night.
And that's saying something, because Ted Nugent, say what you will about him, back in the 70s, that motherfucker was a performer and played some serious classic rock fire.
Yeah. It's too bad he's a fucking Republican now.
I know, it's kind of a drag, right? I know. Dude, I saw Ted Nugent open up, I think it was for Kiss, like in like the early 2000s, and at one point, this is the only thing that I remember from the whole show. He was like, and Jesse Jackson, that guy can go fuck himself, and he lights a fire like on the end of an arrow and shoots it into one of his cabinets on stage, and everyone went, yeah, and I was like, this is just stupidity.
Cool, Ted. Cool.
Drum sets. How many drum sets do you have? Are you a specific Ludwig guy? And is this all tied back to Bonham as well? Did it all? Were you like, I have to have Ludwig kits because of Bonham?
Well, the current kit that I have, I got pretty much because of Bonham.
Yeah,
I wanted the natural.
It is the wood grain. And
the natural maple kit. So my first real kit was a '66 Slingerland kit, which
do you still have it?
I still have that.
No way! You have your first kit?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, I sold mine. I'm kind of mad about it. It was a wood grain Tama Superstar from the '80s, and it sounded amazing, and I totally sold it.
Well, you fucked up.
I shouldn't have sold it. To this day, if I buy a drum set and I'm not going to buy them anymore, I will not sell them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell them.
Well, I learned that lesson about music gear a long time ago. I don't. Unless it's something that I really don't give a fuck about, I don't sell anything.
I sold 5 snare drums recently.
God damn. Yeah. You're wheeling and dealing.
I was all Craigslist shit too.
I love Craigslist so much.
It is amazing. You can get like an amputee prostitute. You can get like a coffee table with missing a leg, also kind of an amputee. Or you can get sex. Like, who's going to Craigslist for sex? Can you imagine the sex you would find on Craigslist?
They shut down that portion of it now.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's been a while since I did that. Uh-oh.
Don't disclose too much information about yourself.
No. So what are the kits that you presently have, and is this kit that you're playing now one of your favorites?
It's definitely the favorite. I had it custom made for me from Ludwig.
Did you?
Yeah, the sizes and all the little specs on it.
It's 224s, a 14, 16, 18?
Yeah.
The 24s are 14 or 16 in depth?
The 24s are 14. The 14 is a 12, okay. And then it's 16 by 16.
That's right, 18 by 16.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. They sound badass.
Thank you. It took a while to figure out which head configuration that vibed with it the best, but
I'm a fan of coated heads, period.
Yeah.
I think is that what you're playing on those?
Yeah, I use the Remo Emperor Vintage coated.
Nice.
The vintage.
Okay.
The vintage is a little bit thicker than the normal one.
Okay. It sounds great. I'm a fan of also, we were talking a little bit about like the subgenres. Feel free to name any one of them and the sort of gridded nature of that. But one of the things that always kind of gets to me is that in those subgenres, tonally, a lot of the instruments have a tendency to sound alike. And part of that vibe is that everything sounds kind of artificial. And what I like about your kit is that it sounds live. And it makes sense for a band that who has a live feel, whether it was conscious or not. I feel like it's kind of this conceptual thing in the band that really works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why anyone, a drummer especially, like you put in all these hours to get your foot speed up and all that.
Yeah. And
then when you go to record your drums and it just sounds like a fucking computer.
Right.
Like what? Why? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Sorry to all you drummers out there who quantize everything and record to a click and make everything sound perfect. Why would you do that?
Right.
You know?
It's interesting because on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've spoken to someone like John Longstreth who does, like, he's a fucking blast beat connoisseur. He's like on the front end of the spectrum of playing that stuff, and it is fascinating to see him and know the discipline that it takes for him to do that. But he's one of those guys that can actually play the shit.
Yeah.
You know, which is a freaky, technical attribute to have in and of itself.
Yeah, and I completely appreciate that, and I work on stuff like that. You know, I sit down to a metronome and I play, and I always, right around when I get to like 200, 210 BPM, you start to feel different muscle groups working, and I really like the physiological aspect of playing fast, where you're using these different muscle groups and you have to use, more of your ankle as opposed to your whole leg, or more of your wrist as opposed to your whole arm when you're playing.
Right.
I really enjoy all that. Yeah, I don't know if anyone can play any more perfect than George Callias. Like, I watch videos of that guy where he is not being triggered and he's playing perfectly. And it just is like, where do you go from there? I don't think you can go you can get faster or more perfect than that. I know, it is a bizarre, I call it it's like the metal industrial arms race. Yeah, it's like who can outspeed everyone else. It's a strange pursuit, but once again, I do technically appreciate it. But ultimately, I think when I revisit something like the couple of those Death records, whether it's Sean Ryan or Gene Hoglan playing on it, that stuff, that's pre-triggers, and those guys are playing that shit. Well, Hoglan's definitely one of my guys, and symbolic. He's fast, and again, fast is cool. It's great. Yeah, I dig it, but. He's so fucking tasteful and playing open-handed and playing with combat boots and old Camco pedals. Yeah, like weird shit. It's like it's punk rock to be like, like that guy doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't need a fucking Axis pedal. It's where the beater head is a quarter of an inch away from the head. Like it's he's just in there fucking wailing and just doing it, and it rules. Again, that's talk about like the vibe of someone who's done their homework and is prepared and coming in the studio and just fucking knocking it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And totally adding to the vibe of a record.
Totally.
Like that's part of what makes Symbolic so great.
Yeah.
Is that.
At which point, because it sounds like you're going through all this classic rock stuff, was there any particular record that was heavy, or maybe a couple of them perhaps, that you feel in hindsight really might have changed the trajectory of your life?
It was definitely Injustice for All. I was into punk rock, and then someone played Metallica for me, and I was like blackened hearing that, and he's just smoking right at the front of it, and I was just like, oh, I didn't even know you could play drums like that. So hearing that was an eye opener. And then I just kind of snowballed from there. I got into Morbid Angel. I still am a huge Pantera fan.
Yeah.
Just like it just got heavier and heavier, wanting to hear crazier and crazier stuff.
It's funny in revisiting And Justice for All. It still makes me a little mad that you can't quite discern any bass in it. But the songs, the two that have lasted with me all of these years, because I as well was obsessed with that record. But I think Shortest Straw and Frayed Ends of Sanity. Those two.
Shortest Straw is my jam. That's the most punk rock song on that record.
It is.
I feel like it almost has like a D beat thing going on.
Right. It rules.
Yeah.
And it takes me back. Like I remember the time that I was listening to that record and where I was and everything about it. It's absurdly nostalgic when I hear that record.
Yeah, same here. I can think of specific moments like hanging out in my friend's bedroom, and he had this killer stereo, and he was just he had like a Sublime CD, and I was like, yo, this sucks. I'm gonna bring over this Metallica CD. And
Sweet.
Let's listen to this and hang out and sneak beers or whatever.
There you go. Crank the stereo.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And not listen to Sublime.
That's right.
To fucking Metallica.
Yeah.
And being able to play air drums along to it perfectly.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'd probably still get pretty close to perfect playing air drums along with it, if not perfect. But
I feel like I know a lot of it as well, which is funny. I would never cite Lars as an influence necessarily, but in my head, I subconsciously have all of that embedded from just fucking repetition, of listening to it so many times and obsessing over it.
I totally cite Lars as an influence. And
dude, you're the one guy. I love it.
And I'll fucking tell you why.
Oh, I'm into this. This is exciting me.
He plays fills that no one else would think to put in spots in songs.
Oh, they're bizarre.
It's so weird, but like in a very left field, outside of the box way, it works, and I think that adds a lot of character. Like, sure, a quote unquote better drummer could have been playing drums in Metallica,
right? Someone more technically proficient,
but it just wouldn't have the same. I just feel like it wouldn't be Metallica if it wasn't fucking Lars.
It wouldn't
doing those weirdo fills.
It wouldn't be the Beatles without Ringo,
and that's the perfect correlation. It's not always who is the most talented drummer for the job. I think that character is in your playing is more virtuosic than being able to play some crazy 13/8 fill. When you hear Lars play, you fucking know it's Lars playing.
Absolutely.
When you hear Ringo playing, you know it's his playing. And the same can be said for any great drummer or any great musician for that matter. Like when Eddie Van Halen plays an E chord,
you're like, that's Jesus, fucking Eddie Van Halen. That's damn sure Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Well, that's an aspect of establishing an identity on your instrument. And once again, going back to, it doesn't always have to be the technique that you have. It can sort of the lack of that and the character in it is what is a discernible thing about someone's playing, And I think you have some of that, especially within the context of the band that you play in, between the sound that you have and the approach that you have and the feel and everything else. So
yeah, I try to be unique, even though sometimes I feel like I'm just another turd farting on a snare drum. But I try try to put my little drop in the bucket or whatever.
What do y'all have going on? I know you just dropped this record. Do y'all have some tours that are coming up?
Yeah, we have a U.S. tour that we're doing in May, and then we're going to Europe in the fall, and we're actually going to go back to Nashville and do a little something for an EP that should be out hopefully by the end of the year or something like that.
Nice, man.
Yeah. We got some things happening.
There you go. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
TJ, it was fun talking to you, man. I don't know that I have forgotten to ask you anything, nor do I know that we missed anything on the first round that we didn't record. But I will say, since we hit the record button, I think this went pretty well.
Yeah. we barely talked about the record at all, and I'm so okay with that. I would much rather talk about AC/DC and Van Halen and Led Zeppelin.
There you go, dude.
Yeah.
Right on. Man, it was good talking to you, brother. Good luck on the record. Good luck going forward. And I look forward to hearing you play some loud-ass, live-ass drums tonight.
Right on.
Yeah, man. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, as always. And many thanks to TJ for catching up. Both of us were obviously a little hungover and not necessarily operating to full capacity, but it honestly made for a pretty funny and at times ridiculous talk, which is right up my alley, as some of you might know. New album Sulfur English is out, and by all means, definitely check them out live. They are an absolute force to be reckoned with. Get the tidal wave of Viking rock and go get engulfed in it. Catch you on the next round. Crash, bang, boom.